Lost Nation Archery in Brenton, USA now presents Lead and Limbs podcast, where broadheads and brass collide, with your hosts Nick Carpenter and Blake Mallory.
So we're back on Lead and Limbs, and we're sitting here with Mike Seedorff, the president of Commemorative Bucks of Michigan. I just got back from brushing some turkey blinds, and so I've kind of been running around like crazy. But wanted to have Mike on here. Mike and I kind of met a couple years ago through Commemorative Bucks of Michigan. Actually, after my daughter shot her big deer, I started getting some deer scored, and that's how we kind of made a connection. But just wanted to kind of have Mike on and talk about Commemorative Bucks, talk about scoring. He's also a certified scorer for Pope and Young as well. And just wanted to kind of pick your brain on how long you've been in Commemorative Bucks and what it's all really about.
Absolutely. Well, I was a member for a couple of years, and then from that, it kind of led to me going to the scoring class, because in the area that I'm in, Calhoun County, Kalamazoo County, Branch, Berry, this little area right here, Calhoun County didn't have any scores at all. Kalamazoo did not either. So I went to their scoring class. They had a need in this area, and took the class back in 2003, and have been scoring ever since. At the beginning back then, there were a lot of big shows. So Deer and Turkey Spectacular up in Lansing, the Deltaplex had one in Grand Rapids. So you had opportunities to go to these shows, and people would bring in heads and turkey beards and bear skulls or whatever to be scored. And it was also an opportunity for me to be around veteran scorers, and I could sit right down next to one of those guys and get some experience. If I had questions, it was easy to ask them. Very helpful. CBM, the guys at CBM are great people, and so I got great guidance for them. I learned a lot from them over the years, and that was really beneficial for me to work those shows. And then as time went on, I started to build up a little bit of a clientele. Once you score a deer for somebody, they kill another one, they call you back, or their brother-in-law or their cousin or their neighbor. All of a sudden, you get a lot of calls, and now I probably average, here at the house, I probably average 50 to 60 guys coming over to have their deer scored. And then, of course, I work most of the shows as well. There's really only two big ones now. There's one in Kalamazoo that's a real big one, and then one up in Imlay City in September that's a big one. But there's a lot of little shows. A lot of church groups put on some wild game dinners, and I'll work those. Williams Equipment up in Charlotte is a one-nighter. There's one down in Dowagiac. Farm Bureau, Battle Creek Farm Bureau over in Climax, they put on a one-day show. So I do a lot of one-day things as well. So yeah, I've been scoring since, and I coached football for 30 years. I was an educator, administrator in a school. My kids were very active in everything that they could do. So my time was pretty limited. They're in their 30s now. They're married. My daughter's a mom and a wife, and my son's a husband and a father. And so I now have more time on my hands, and I got involved a little bit deeper with CBM, and I became a board member right around the COVID time. And I was only a board member for a very short period, and at that time, it seems like nobody really ever wants to be the president or the vice president or anything like that. And that came up. I did not throw my hat in the ring or anything. I was more or less appointed the president, and because there's three current board members. I know two of them are in their 80s. The other one's in his late 70s. Those three guys were very influential on me when I started out scoring, and they sit on the board. And when they asked me to be the president, I felt like I was going to let them down if I said no.
Sure.
And as much as what they did for me back in the day, I didn't want to let them down. So I've been president now, I think 6 years. This August will be 6 years, and been very, very busy with it. We have a business manager. His name's Marty Holleran,
Mm.
and I'll tell you what, Marty runs the ship, and he is so valuable to our organization. But he and I work real closely together. I was on the phone with him 2 different times today. I'm I'm probably on the phone with him or text with him probably 4 to 5 days a week. We work pretty closely together. Um, yeah, so now I'm president, and we can get into what CBM is all about here in a second. You don't have any further questions from here. I've been scoring for Pope and Young as well, which is a vertical bow organization only. I've been doing that for 11 years now,
Oh,
and
wow. Holy cow.
yeah,
Hmm.
Yeah, we addressed this in the previous take that we had, and I had technical difficulties. But a couple years ago, you and I met, and then you reached out and asked if I'd start scoring down here in Branch County because there wasn't anybody. Branch and St. Joe. It's been great. I said I've got to meet a lot of people. I think one of the obstacles is I know it was for me because the first deer I ever had scored was the big one my daughter shot a few years ago. I didn't know really how, other than call somebody else who, like you said, you kind of build your kind of guys who keep coming back. Because once you kind of figure out what it's about, and all you got to do is have a membership, and you get your deer or turkey scored or bear in Michigan. It's really easy. It's really easy to do and find someone. But like I always thought, oh, it costs, $150 and it's, all this type of stuff. But really in Michigan, it's just the membership is all you got to
yeah,
pay for the $100.
yeah. And we have different membership levels that you can join, but most everybody pays $40. You become a member for a year, and with that $40, you can have everything that you have scored.
Yep.
Um, just, just so and we try to prioritize um the previous fall's kills first. And there's a reason for that I'll get into in a minute. But then quite often well, you're a good example. I'll score a deer for somebody, and they'll say, "Hey, I got other deer at home," and then I'll make arrangements after a scoring period is up, and I'll score those as well because now that you're a member, you can get them scored. Where
Yep.
conversely to that, Pope and Young, you don't have to be a member, but they charge a $40 entry fee for
Mhm.
each one that you enter.
Each individual ant.
Yeah. So Pope and Young wise, I score maybe a dozen to 15 a year. Pope and Young, their minimums are higher than CBM. So
Yeah.
a little
Yeah.
tougher to get into.
Yep. Yeah, I know that one of the racks that I had to score, you came down to my shop and it was all non-typical, crazy. We were on the phone with Pope. You had your connection with Pope and Young, and I had you come down because I actually had you do the score, and I just held the tape for you, and because they were getting scored for Pope and Young as well, so you can do a combination where you kind of get both at the same time when he scores it, not when I score it. I'm not certified in Pope and Young, so.
And it's nice for the hunter if they do qualify for Pope and Young and CBM to get it scored by somebody that can do both. That way they're getting the same exact score. They
Mm-hmm.
they got their certificates up next to their deer with the same exact scores, because I don't care. We could have a dozen measures score $1 and it's gonna be off, you know.
Yep.
Somebody's
Yep.
gonna be an eighth bigger, an eighth smaller, or whatever. That's
And
just the way it goes.
Emerson's was, I think for commemorative bucks, it was 1/8 or 2/8 smaller than Pope and Young. But
Hmm.
it's basically the exact same. But yeah, I think it was like 152 and 7/8 and gross, and then 153 even gross. I think that's what it was
Yeah,
on the gross side. Yeah.
yeah, it's a beautiful buck.
But no, it's Dick, you got stuff that actually isn't your son certified in Boone and Crockett?
So my son's a CBM measure, and then when I took the Pope and Young class, it was Pope and Young only. They came up to Lansing. It was a 3-day school. There's 30 different species that you had to be trained on and then tested out on. So it took some time. Now they do it in conjunction with Boone and Crockett. So they conduct a class and you get certified for both. And my son went out to Minnesota a couple of years ago, and his 3 or 4 days he was out there and got certified in both of those organizations. Then we actually have CBM is doing a bow hunters bash in conjunction with Pope and Young. That's coming up April 24th. And the 3 days prior to that, leading up to that, they're doing a Pope and Young Boone and Crockett scoring class as well during that time. So we have a number of CBM guys that are going to get certified in both. I asked if I could just do Boone and Crockett, and they wanted to do, and I didn't want to sit through all the Pope and Young stuff all over again, and that wasn't going to work out. And I'm fine not being a Boone and Crockett scorer. So it's the same scoring system. It's just learning their history, and their score sheets
Yeah.
are different, and their entry fees are different, that sort of thing. But yeah,
Sounds like something Blake should do. Doesn't it sound like something Blake should do?
I tried to talk him into it.
I got
Come
so
on,
much on
Blake.
my plate. Like, I just, I'm happy being a scorer for commemorative bucks right now. I'll want to kick that can down the road. So tell my kids are, on their own. So, but you got something to score for Boone and Crockett, don't you, Nick?
Probably. I think I've got a couple of them.
It's your caribou, isn't it? I think because I
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
Yep.
Mike's son was the one
yeah,
that I was gonna hook you up with to get that scored. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I definitely should get that one scored. That was a really nice caribou.
Yeah,
So
that I think you need to get that one scored. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've been trained on caribou and all the different species of elk and different species of moose and the big horn sheep and the goats and walrus tusks and all that. But when you don't do those animals often, you gotta pull the
yeah,
book out again and refresh. So how do I do this?
absolutely.
You know, so I mentioned Pope and Young does 30 different species. Um, Commemorative bucks, we only do 4: the white-tailed deer, Michigan elk, the black bear, and turkeys.
Yep.
Hmm.
So we only do 4 for the state of Michigan, and they have to be Michigan harvests as well
Okay.
to get into the Michigan record book. But yeah, Pope and Young, there's 30 different ones that you have to learn on.
What are all the requirements to actually get into commemorative bugs?
So they all go on net scores.
Okay.
So the gross score is what everybody wants to know.
Mhm.
And I'm a measurer. My biggest bucket is 142 and 4/8. That's what he grosses. He
Yep.
netted 136 and 3. That's the way it goes. If
Yep.
somebody asks, how they say is 142, and they
Mhm.
want then they say what's he net? Then I'm honest. I'll tell them he's 136. So,
I
but
always say nets are for fishing. So
but yeah, I've
Yeah.
heard that. Um, but the vertical bows and the crossbows, uh, the net score for a typical is 100 inches.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Vertical bow and crossbow, the net score for a non-typical is 125 inches.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then when you get into firearms, your muzzle loader, your shotgun, your rifle, typical net score 125, non-typical net score 150.
Oh wow.
And to qualify for CBM and Boone and Crockett, to qualify as a non-typical rack, you only need 1 inch of an abnormal point on that rack, and as long as it makes the minimum entry, the hunter can decide which way he wants to go.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's
Very cool.
not true with Pope and Young. Pope and Young, you have to have at least 10 inches of abnormal points for them to accept it as a non-typical. And that was just lowered 2 years ago from 15 inches.
Huh.
So if you had 14 inches of abnormal points, that all got deducted out of score because you had to go typical.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
but and and every rack is gonna have deductions.
Sure.
You know, yeah. A lot of people think that non-typicals don't have deductions. They do. They still have the side-to-side deductions of their normal points, the main beams, um, your circumference measurements. You still have your side-to-side deductions of those. The only difference is now the abnormal points get added into the score and not deducted out.
So when you're scoring one, your main frame, let's say you got a main frame 8 with splits, and so you're scoring that main frame, and it'll have deductions based on those 8 main, and then your abnormal points will just get added in as an additional, and they don't get, like, say you got one, well, let's say we got drop tine on the left side and a drop tine on the right side. Each one of those just counts as extra inches. They're not deducted from each other.
Correct. And as long as it makes the minimum entry, it can go in our book.
Interesting.
And there's sometimes, I have a lot of hunters that have, an inch to 3 inches of abnormal points, and they still choose to have that rack go typical. And because they look at it, and I do too, it's really a typical rack. It just had a
Uh-huh.
little kick, just had a little kicker up the brow or something like that, and you know, it really isn't a not typical deer,
Mhm.
although it does qualify. That's why I kind of like what Pope and Young does. It really has to be a freaky deer to be
Yeah,
not
yeah.
typical.
Over 10 inches, yeah.
Yeah. And then a lot of times the score, the not the score, the hunter will look at their county and see where they rank in the county as a typical compared to where they rank in the county as a non-typical. And
Yeah.
then with whatever weapon they use, they'll say, "Oh, well, I rank higher as a typical with a
Yep.
bow than I do as a non-typical in my county, so I want to go typical." So
Yep.
that's all the hunter's choice.
That makes perfect sense. What's the coolest
Yeah.
thing you've ever scored? I don't care. Largest, coolest, what is it?
Yeah, no, that's an easy one for me. It was an 8 point,
No
and
kidding.
but it was a world class 8 point. This girl named Sarah Barnaby, she shot it during the youth season back in I think 2019, down towards Teconcha area. The year before, talking to the dad, the year before that deer was actually a 10 point, and then
Interesting.
the next year it was an 8 point. But that deer, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know I'm pretty close. That deer netted 161 and 6/8. That was a
Oof.
net. That was a net score on an 8 point,
That's
Wow.
big.
and it only had an inch and 2/8 total deduction.
Oh
So
my
your side to
gosh.
side, it was the most symmetrical, beautiful looking buck. And I've scored bigger. Well, I've scored deer over 200 inches, but
Sure.
this deer was the finest, nicest buck that I ever scored, and it
So
wasn't far from my house. Beautiful deer,
world class series.
Yeah.
world class 8 point for
8
sure.
point.
Yep, yep. For an
Yeah.
8 point to get, oh shoot, for an 8 point in Michigan to get
140 is a
125,
miracle.
and this baby netted 161.
Wow.
Fantastic deer. I actually stopped by the guys. Her, so Sarah has grown up, moved out of the house. The dad still has the mount in the house, and
Mm-hmm.
I see him occasionally. I saw him out in the yard about a month ago. I swung in there, and he invited me in to look at it again up on the wall. I just love that deer. Yeah,
Oh, shoot.
congrats to Sarah on a beautiful buck. Uh,
That's big. Anything over, you're correct. And the 130-inch 8 point in Michigan is a beautiful deer. So you add 30 inches to that and a net. So he's way bigger than
Yeah,
that.
it's not.
Whew. Wow.
yep,
Wow.
gorgeous deer. And then to get into, so we do elk, Michigan elk,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I think I've only scored four of those. over the year. Basically scored the same as a whitetail with a few little differences, especially on the circumference where you start your circumference. But you still have your side-to-side deductions, non-typical, typical. And then you get into, and by the way, whitetails and elk are scored to the eighth of an inch. And
Okay.
if they hit just above an eighth, we round up. Turkeys and bear, there's no gross score. It all just scores what it is. No
Okay.
deductions. No deductions. And both turkey and bear are scored to the 16th of an inch.
Okay.
A bear, there's two measurements. It's the length of the skull and the width of the skull. So the orbital bones and then front tooth back to that, whatever that process is on the back of the skull. So you got the
Yep.
two measurements, add them up. I believe, and Blake, maybe you can help me out on this, but I believe in Michigan, a bow kill is 17 inches is the score you need on a bear, and a gun kill is 18 inches on a
Yeah,
bear.
I
Is what they
think
have to
you're right.
reach to make a
Yeah.
record buck.
I was gonna say on the turkey side of thing, is Michigan Commemorative Bucks one of the only ones that does turkey?
I believe so. I think the National Turkey Federation does something, but they add in weight on the
Oh,
turkey as well. Oh, yeah. Ours is the length of the beard to the longest hair, that the longest attached
catch
hair,
hair.
I might add, because sometimes the longest hair of the beard or the bristle, whatever you want to call it, that plus the length of the two spurs. And if a spur's like this, you'd measure on this side with our cable, measure around the back, put your alligator clip there, and you get the length of each spur. Then add all that up, and that's the turkey score. And for Michigan, uh, vertical bow or a crossbow, you need to have 10 inches total. For any kind of a gun, I guess it'd be a shotgun, um, would be 12 inches.
Huh.
And then there's no minimum on a multi-beard. You just keep adding those in.
Mhm.
Huh. Very cool.
Yeah. Turkey season's coming up. I love turkey hunting. One of my favorite times of the year, and I've been scouting a lot, so I'm ready. I got my decoys over there ready to roll. So can't wait for Saturday morning.
I was picking on Blake today. I was calling some from the backyard here, just messing around while we were working on stuff in the back of the shop. We had 7 strutters just walking around the field. They're
Yeah,
getting
that's
fired up
fun.
for sure.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, I got
Uh,
the statewide tag, and my daughter's got the tag for Saturday. So my season doesn't open until May 2nd, and we'll be hunting for the
oh,
girls on Saturday because I wanted to go hunt in my cabin, and if I get the one that opens on Saturday, I can't hunt in my cabin, so I'm waiting until May 2nd. So
gotcha.
yeah, oh yeah, we had a tom run right through the backyard yesterday. So
Speaking of brushing in blinds, I think it was 2 years ago. I had a hub blind, and I was bow hunting turkeys, and
Uh-huh.
I was brushing in the blind, and and it had a floor in it, and
Uh-huh.
there's a stick under there. So I'm reaching underneath there, trying to pull that stick out, and it was a 8-point shed antler. I I set the hub blade right up on his shed.
I'll be
oh, that's
darned.
nice.
Can't beat
That's
that.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah. But I could go
So,
into real quickly the history of CBM and how that all got started and what we do as an organization. If you want to hear some of that?
that'd be great.
Yeah.
You got it. You got the time and the platform.
All right. So this is coming off the top of my head. So CBM was founded in 1981 by a fellow by the name of Paul Jalen, and Paul's actually, I think Blake met him. Paul actually makes wood arrows still. Paul's
Mhm.
still alive. He's in his 80s. He was never a measurer. He founded the organization, and back then there were 13 original measurers, and most are deceased now. One of those 13 measurers was a man by the name of Frank Ranella. If you've heard of Steve Ranella from Meat Eater,
Yep.
Steve's dad was one of the original measurers for CBM.
Okay.
That 13 of them. Now we have 120 plus minus measures throughout the state, the 83 counties. So we have a lot of measures that I communicate with. I talked to 6 of them yesterday on different things, but so we have 120 measures. We have over 55,000 entries in our state record book
Wow.
currently. I have one right here. This is our state record book, our current one, and you can see it goes county by county. This happens to be Jackson, and it's typical. It goes to non-typical, and then it lists them by the county rank, um, and then the score, the hunter's name, the year it was taken, and then the weapon used.
Very cool.
Every 3 years, we produce a new record book,
Okay.
and they're for sale on our website. But because it's very costly to print a book, we have to do things to make some money in order to do those things. But soon we're we're getting a revamp of our website, and soon we should have an interactive record book on the website.
If we want to buy one of those books, your website's where we find the book. I mean,
Yep,
and you're printing them every 3 years.
every 3 years. So the next one will be printed September 2027. So
Okay.
we have on our board one of the positions is record book chairman, and Al Wilde runs that, and he's got to stay on top of things. And we're actually in discussions just last week with the guy that's done the last couple books for us, and see if he'd still be interested in doing the next one. He is. We had photos to that, but it's quite an undertaking. We're a year and a half out. We've already
Yeah.
begun to try to get this going.
I can't even imagine.
So everything in the last 3 years since this book has been printed, everything that's been scored goes in our database, and then those will be pulled out and then added to the next book.
And you're saying you're going to start a website. You have the website, but you're going to have a virtual book as well. But it's only going to
Yep,
be for members only. So are we going to have to pay for a subscription there? Or is that just going to be part of your subscription when you buy in?
yep. If you're a member, you'll be able to go in and do that. So,
Okay.
we have
Cool.
life members. You buy a 5-year membership, a 3-year
Sure.
membership, a 2-year, one, whatever. But there'll be a members only perk to go on the website and track things on the record book there, that interactive record book right there. If you're in the record book, you're in there forever. Um, I've scored a deer that was shot in 1914. The
Wow.
guy's great grandfather had killed it in the UP, and never had it scored. And now that deer is now in the record book and under this guy's great grandfather's name. As long as you don't, get convicted of game violation of some sort, and we've had people removed from the book. I want to say almost yearly, but not quite. But
Wow.
things come up, and we'll remove them if something happened where a poaching thing or a trespassing thing or whatever. Then um and Boone and Crockett and Pope and Young, they do the same thing. They don't
Yeah.
Absolutely.
tolerate
Yep.
that. You're not going to be in our book. So
Respectively, they have to, right? There has to be
yeah,
some kind of reprimands for that. Mike,
absolutely.
what's the most important reason you can give for getting in the book and being part of this?
I think it's Michigan hunting's heritage and tradition. Our standards are I think are pretty low. For 100-inch buck, if you kill it with archery, it gets in the book. But it's pretty neat to thumb through there and see, Uncle Bill's name in the book and when he shot that, and um, so it's neat to have around the hunting camp. Uh, you do get anybody that qualifies and enters, they get a frameable certificate that they can
Okay.
put up next to their deer patch and decals and things like that. People like it. There's a lot of people that don't want to do it, and I respect that. They always say, well, they'll know where I'm hunting, which always makes me laugh because they're not going to know where you're hunting, number one, but whatever. But I just think it's a neat way to, not really I always say it's not so much to recognize a hunter, it's to honor that deer. That deer grew.
Hmm.
That deer lived to be 3.5, 4.5, 5.5 years old, which in Michigan pretty hard to hear of, but grew that old and grew a tremendous rack. And the hunter, with skill or luck or a combination of the two, harvested that buck. Let's honor that buck. That buck deserves to be recognized somehow. We put the hunter's name and picture in that book. That's pretty neat. It lives
No,
on.
I think that's a great reason. I really do. And I've never really thought about it that way as honoring the whitetails of Michigan and what it takes to get that age. You're right. I like it.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so then, there's a cost to run the organization. We're a non-for-profit. Nobody gets paid in our organization except our business manager gets a little bit of something, but not much. And for all the time he puts into it, he's well underpaid. But we're all volunteers. Our measures, they're paying postage, which is going up to send
Mhm.
the score sheets in, and so you got to really love it. You got to love hunting. You got to love um, talking to hunters. And like I think I said earlier, I rarely meet a bad guy that's a hunter, a bad gal that's a hunter. They're just hunters. Genuinely are really good people, and I enjoy talking to them. To cover the costs on some of that stuff, we hold two banquets a year. We had our banquet back in March up at Soaring Eagle Casino. It's our
Okay.
fundraising banquet, and it's just kind of like a Ducks Unlimited type thing. There's bucket raffles, there's a silent auction, live auction, games going on all night long. I don't know how many guns that I want to say give away. We don't give them away. We buy them at a reduced cost, but in fact, I think Blake, you won a gun in March, didn't you, up there?
Yeah, I was just shooting, sighting in or just patterning the turkey gun, a shotgun. Probably
Awesome.
going to use it this year. So, yeah,
Yeah. It's a
It's as
great
far as
time.
shooting gun.
it is. It is. I hold the pattern better than my 870 did, and it kind of surprised me. So,
But that banquet's a great time. It's a great dinner. We were sold out this year. 400 was our max. So
That
we
was what I was going
sold
to ask
out.
you.
People leave that banquet and they go down to the casino afterwards. They stay the night. It's just a really, really good time. And we get some notable people that show up to that thing. So we bring in, like this year, I'm not afraid to say the numbers. We gross a little over 100,000. We're gonna net, we
Awesome.
net a little over 50,000. Because there's cost of to run a banquet and all
mhm.
that, and
Yep.
get things. We get a lot of donations for our prizes. Uh, and a lot of people. It's a big effort from a lot of people that are involved with CBM to put this thing on and make it go. We also run simultaneous. Opposite of that, we run two different raffles. We run a trophy taker raffle, which is all guns, and I think there are 16 guns on that ticket. The ticket's $5, and
Wow.
we give away 16 guns on that, and they're all really quality guns on that trophy taker raffle. And then we have our awards banquet in August, and that's in Charlotte, Michigan, at the fairgrounds.
Okay.
And what the awards banquet is about is anybody that harvested an animal in the last season. So like right now we're 2026. So
Yep.
anything that was harvested in 2025 is eligible for an award. And those awards, there's many awards we give out. Another reason for us having to do this is we buy plaques. So the award winner gets a plaque. Second, third place get certificates. But there's categories. There's our archery. There's crossbow. There's muzzleloader. There's regular firearm. You got seniors. You got youth. You got male. You got female. You got bear. You got turkey. You got elk. You got whitetail. So it's a pretty neat banquet. That's my favorite one to do. I give out the awards, get to say a little something about each guy that comes up or gal, and I really like honoring that animal and that hunter that day.
Sure.
It's a lot of fun. But with that, this is kind of a Buck Facts magazine that goes out for that awards banquet, and then it goes through anybody that killed an animal in the past season. They're listed in here. All the award winners are in there. Our state records are all listed in this. In the back, here, this last page is these are all the measures in the state of Michigan
Very cool.
that we have. We actually just cleaned some up. I think we lost about a dozen measures that were no longer interested or have moved out of state. So we just got
Right.
through that process of cleaning things up with that. But and then one of my favorite things that we do is we're trying to promote youth in hunting. And I don't know if you guys saw this stat. I was at the NRC meeting last week, 2 weeks ago.
Two.
No, last
Mhm.
week. And I was at that meeting, and they put a stat up there that 48% of Michigan hunters, deer hunters, are age 60 or older.
Mhm.
That's scary. That's
That's scary.
52%. Yeah, I mean, where are the hunters? So we're doing some things to try to promote youth in hunting. It's in our bylaws that we do something like that. And for for a long time, we paid for hunter safety courses for any youth in the UP, and then that went on to we partnered with MUCC, Michigan United Conservation Club, and 6 different middle schools throughout the state. They have a tracks magazine, and 6 different middle schools throughout the state. We pay for their subscription for
Yeah.
the certain grade, like 6th grade. All the 6th grade students get those magazines at those 6 different buildings. And then this year we're partnering with a group called Raised at Full Draw,
Mhm.
and you know of them, Blake?
Oh yeah, Joe's actually going to be on the
Yeah,
show on Friday. So yep,
awesome. Yeah,
yep.
Joe Coy. Um, they're up by Grand Rapids, Kent
Mhm.
County, and Joe's going to explain more about it. But what I understand is they do a camp, 3 or 4 day camp. Kids go there. I think it's kids 12 to 17. They
Mhm.
go there. They learn hunter safety, how to put a tree stand up, tree stand safety, how to track a deer. If you're tracking a deer, they do mock tracks. You come to a fence and there's a no trespassing sign. What do I do now? Um, they teach them archery skills. It's just a really neat thing, and I think the cost of a kid is $250 to attend. And
Oh
so
wow.
we're gonna sponsor this year. We're gonna sponsor 2 kids to go to that camp, and then with hopes of the following years increasing that to 4 kids, maybe even up to 8 kids. We'll pay for their camp visit at that Raise the Full Draw. So yeah, I mean, it's more than just measuring deer and that sort of thing. So it's a
Absolutely.
good
Yeah.
organization.
Yeah, the youth and the numbers of the like I've heard that 20% are going to retire in the next 10 years of hunters. And yeah, the recruitment side of things, that's awesome. I didn't even know whoever Bucks is doing that. And like you said, just from my time scoring, I've got to meet so many great people already, and I've only been doing it for one season. And we
So
got turkey season coming up here. So, yeah, I will say on scoring, I always someone reaches out and they're like, can you score my buck?" And I'm like, "Yeah, will you do me a favor and send me a picture of it so I can know what I'm getting into before I do?" So I like the last one was it was a really nice 8 point, and I was like, "Oh, thank you, just a nice typical 8 point."
straight
Like,
eight,
you
easy to
know,
go.
so, but I sent you a couple pictures this year of some gnarly ones down here,
Yep.
but yeah, it's been
You
fun
could get
so
some
far.
head scratchers for sure. You look at some as like, well, you really gotta look over a rack sometimes. These
Yeah,
older, bigger, gnarly
yeah,
racks.
Yeah, until you actually start putting tape on racks, you don't realize, you know, the shared common bases and all those. And then we had the one that we couldn't decide if it was a drop tine or main beam, and it was like called a
Right.
droopy tine. And like it just there's a lot of gnarly things that go into some of them whitetails, and it's fun, it's interesting, and like I said, I mean, yeah, someone brings me just a straight 8 point. Cool. It's still fun. I get to hear the story and stuff like that. But then you get to
Yeah.
see some of these crazy deer too. So
Well, that one that you had that you called me on that I went down there and helped you out, I had never heard that term. They called Tim at Pope and Young. He called it a melting main beam,
yep.
where it melts at the end. And I said, Tim, and I read that. I know that book really good. I said, Tim, I've never read anything in the book about that. He said, well, it's not in there, but it's going to be in the next one. He said,
But
so
Yeah.
that's what it is.
yeah, they're coming across that a little more. So
Well, with me being new, Dwayne questioned the scoring sheet pretty heavily. And I was like, Mike was there. Mike was there. Like we said, yeah.
Dwayne is
So
really good at his job.
for sure. For sure.
So Nick, what we do as measures, we'll score a deer. We'll send the sheet in. Hope and Young requires 4 different photographs of the
Okay.
rack. And
Yep.
actually, Blake, you don't know this, but next year CBM is going to require at least one photograph.
And
So
I think good idea.
Yeah, I
and
think that's a
then
good move.
we send that into a scoring chairman, and we have 6, I believe, in the state, and Dwayne happens to be mine and Blake's. And then Dwayne goes back through the score sheet, looks for math errors and that sort of thing, and makes sure all the boxes are correctly checked. And then once he gives a stamp of approval, it goes to our business manager, and then he sends out the certificates and that sort of thing, puts it in the database at that point.
So can we have more than one measure per county? And if somebody wants to be a measure, how do they get involved?
So that's a good question. The answer is no on the per county thing. For a
Hmm.
long time, there wasn't anybody in Calhoun County. Then it was just me up until just 3 years ago. I recruited one of my ex students to go. And so now there's 2 of us in Calhoun County. But so, yeah, it would be ideal to have at least 1 or 2 measurers in each county. But we do have counties in the state that don't get a lot of deer to measure, especially the
Sure.
UP.
Okay.
So you don't get a lot of interest in some of those counties. Conversely, we have counties like Ingham County and Jackson County. We might have 5 or 6 measures in those counties.
Huh.
And part of that I just learned recently was that deer and turkey spectacular was always in Lansing.
Yep.
And it takes a lot of people. I don't know if you remember going to that. We used to set up a big, huge wall, and we'd hang all the trophies on the wall. There'd be
Oh yeah, I
hundreds
remember
of them.
that.
It
Yep.
was really, really cool. And well, that's quite an undertaking because that wall was CBM's, and then
Yep.
so you got to put it together. You got to have people hanging the deer, and so because of that, they got a lot more measures in the Lansing area just
I see.
for that show. Even though they might not have been measuring a lot, they were helping out at those shows. So,
Very cool. Okay.
but some of our measures that don't score a lot, they're selling raffle tickets for us. So they're trying to, or they'll travel to Novi, to the show up in Novi or Kalamazoo or Imlay City, and they help out for a day.
Yeah.
Other guys get a lot of deer to score and don't do any of that other stuff, and some do a mix of both. So,
Hmm.
and
Speaking of that,
some unfortunately hardly score anything, and they refuse to even sell a raffle ticket. So those are the ones we're trying to clean up a little bit.
Right.
and
Yeah.
some of them got some video editing to do too for the shows that I'm still got it on my
Yeah,
to-do list. So I'll be working on those here soon.
yeah, yeah. Blake did a video at our banquet,
Yep.
and I think it's gonna be. Well, I've seen what Blake puts together, and they're awesome. So
Yeah.
we're really looking forward to what he could do with the banquet footage and put together a couple, 1 minute promotional videos
Yep.
that we can use for next year's the 2027 banquet. We can post that on Instagram and on our Facebook and really promote the banquet then.
Yep, I'll
Absolutely.
I'll be getting those going here soon. But the one thing I did want to say too is like for anybody that you're talking about the 100-inch deer, just barely making it. Like you just scored one of mine from it. This buck meant a lot to me long time ago as one of my bigger bucks at the time. Like it was for a while my biggest buck. It scored 101, and it made it by 1 inch. And so when people do come in, I'm like, yep, that one right there. That's about your minimum to get in right there.
Yeah,
So
yeah, good
yeah,
measuring point for them to look at. So
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
yeah,
So,
I'll say this: when I first started scoring, I scored a lot that were 100 inches to 115 inches.
mhm.
Uh-huh.
But it seems like lately, like almost since COVID, those scores the needle is pushed a little bit higher. So they're more like 115 to 130s now.
Yeah,
I think hunters are being a lot more selective as to what they're shooting.
yeah,
That's good.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
No, I appreciate you coming on here, Mike. My apologies for my technical difficulties today.
Man, he's the
So
guy too. He's the guy with the
He's
cameras
a
and the
tech
video
guy.
tech. He's the tech guy. Yeah.
man, that's a low point for me right there. Like, yeah, that's and I have a Starlink sitting here for better internet and I don't even have it hooked up. So that's all on
I
me.
know.
But
And you live so far away from the studio. It's really
yeah, well, and I told Nick, I'm like, I can't. I'm going to set up. I got to get girls from softball. I gotta go brush in a turkey blind. I gotta go talk to the farmer to make sure we're good for permission. And I'm like, 7 o'clock is the best I can do. Of course, then Nick's like, we need to do 5 episodes this week, and I'm like, no, we're gonna do two. Like,
apparently
so
I have more time than you have. I have the same
well,
well, you got one more kid than me, but
yeah, yeah, and you're right now. You're 1 minute from the studio, so it's
yeah,
uh
no
it's a
doubt.
little bit easier for you.
No
But
doubt.
we are gonna start asking our guests, Mike, at the end of our episodes, if you had one. We're lead and limbs, and Nick owns Breton. I own Lost Nation. We both hunt with guns. We both hunt with bows. But if you had to, for the rest of your time, every season hunt with a bow or a gun, what would it be?
Both. That's easy. Ver-
I
vertical
own the gun
bow,
company and I still love the bows.
Yeah.
vertical bow. I've killed some nice bucks. I killed one this year with my bow. It net score 104. And what a
Hmm.
great hunt.
Yeah.
And just something about vertical bow hunting that I really really love. When I was in high school, my dad was not a bow hunter. My next door neighbor was, and he introduced me to a longbow and then to a recurve, and then I bought my first compound bow when I was 18. And here I'm 61 years old. I've only owned 3 compound bows in my life.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty
Yep.
good.
So, and if I had one weapon to use, it's a bow. It could be a compound bow, it could be a recurve, whatever. I'll go back to whatever, but um,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's a
Bow
bow.
bow hunter
Yep,
for life. There you go. I think
yep,
that's
I
gonna be
love
a
it.
common theme, but we'll see.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is, but I brought up with Nick, like, you got to take in consideration when you get too old to hunt with a bow or you going out west and all of those. But there's just something to be said about getting that close with something and having that adrenaline rush. Emerson shot a doe with her bow last year, and tonight, we were out there and we drove by where she shot it, and she was like, man, she's like, that was just so awesome. And just she shot plenty with a gun and whatnot, but that bow connection is just it's something different. So
Yep, I
Well,
totally agree.
I have nothing against crossbows. You know, it's not for me, but if it gets people hunting, you know, then fine.
Yeah, you and we can differ on that. So, all right, that's fine.
Okay. But I have two inspirations to keep vertical bow hunting, and one is a man by the name of Richard Wilt, who's on our board. He's 83 years old, still uses a vertical bow. Shot a Pope and Young this past fall, and he shot
Wow.
a Pope and Young in 2023. Uh,
Wow.
so two Pope and Youngs, 80 years old or older. Um, and then when I saw the video of your daughter, 11 years old with a little pink compound
Mm-hmm.
bow, I don't know what, 35, 40 pounds,
Yep.
and she's killing a 150-inch buck. I'm like, I don't care how bad my shoulders ever get. If that little girl can do it, I can go back and snap shoot a recurve, to just stay in the game.
Yep. Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she was pulling
Absolutely.
42 pounds, and that buck ran 125 yards. I mean, you can
Yeah,
do it. So,
yeah,
yep.
yeah.
That, but and don't get me wrong, crossbows. I'm a fan of getting everybody and anybody into hunting, but I think if you're physically capable of it, the thing is recurves, compounds, they take practice, they take time, and just sometimes people don't want to put that time in. And that's the drawback with me. But with that being said, some people only gun hunt, and that's perfectly fine too because they're hunting.
Yeah,
So I'm perfectly a fan of that. I know I won't make you try to squeeze out how you feel about the $1 state and all of that type of stuff. But we're sitting in a we talked about this a scary, exciting time for the state of Michigan as hunters. The only thing that I think that is amazing with it is the amount of passion that comes from anybody, whether you're on one side of the aisle or the other side of the aisle on $1 or $2 or antler point restrictions or wherever you are. I love seeing everybody being passionate about how they feel about it. And that gives me hope for our future. And that's the biggest takeaway of all this going on right now.
for sure. Change is needed, in my opinion. That Jordan Hoover, he said something at that meeting where if you do what's right for the resource, the hunter will benefit. But if you
Amen.
do what the hunter wants, the resource will suffer.
Mm.
And so
I
I
agree.
never thought about that before. I thought, and you look at our buck to doe ratio, at least in my area, you go by a field in August, a bean field, and you look out there and you glass them, and there's 30 deer out there, and two or three happen to be bucks.
Yep.
Our buck to doe ratio is a little out of whack. So
Ours
whatever
is
we
pretty
can do
skewed down here.
and to bring that down a little bit, I'm for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm with you. I think we're at a pivotal time here, and I would love to see Michigan become a destination state. And Blake and I have talked about that. I travel all over the countryside trying to find good deer in different states, and I spend a lot of money going there to do these things. I would love to be able to spend that money back in Michigan. And it's just because it's my preference to chase larger bucks. And I think that we have a pivotal moment to be able to do that. In addition to that, I still think that you're correct. We have to level these herds out. I can remember a time when we didn't have maybe a buck, probably a 1-to-5 ratio. It's nowhere near that. Down here in these southern counties, there's no way. There's no
I
way.
heard
So
as high as 1 to 12. I heard
I think you're probably correct. I
different
mean,
areas. So
In certain
it's
areas,
pretty
yeah.
strong here. And we haven't been hit with EHD at all. I mean, like in Branch County, Southern Branch County, I don't think it's been hit any time that they've had Cass County got hit really hard. Union City area got hit pretty hard up that way. We did not get hit here, and you can tell. I mean, they are overpopulated for sure. So, and it needs to be leveled out, and there needs to be some legislation to do that. So they're at a
yeah,
pivotal point. They could do some great things, and maybe we
we'll
could
know in
have
a
a
month.
lot.
We'll
Yeah, that's
We'll
find
right.
know
out
I
in
in
a
a
know.
month.
month.
Well, I'll be
Yeah,
back to talking about it in a month.
yeah,
That's the exciting part. So, yeah,
It'll be it'll be interesting. It's exciting and it's scary all at the same time. So
yeah,
we'll find
yeah,
out.
yeah,
absolutely.
So, but I
yeah.
appreciate you coming on here, Mike. I apologize for my stupidity. Other than that, I appreciate you coming on here, and I appreciate our friendship. We met a couple years ago, and ever since then, we talk quite often, whether it be hunting out around here, hunting around the state, scoring deer, whatever it might be. So I do appreciate that.
Yep, for sure. I appreciate you as well. And Nick, nice meeting you. And great podcast. I hope this thing goes for you guys.
We
And
appreciate
I
you.
listen to them all the time. So
Awesome.
If I can get the technical side of things figured out, we'll be.
I'll be reminding you who was there at odd time and have made it work. It's the old guy that knows nothing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Episode 8.
I,
It was just Nick and I talking.
I'll hopefully it all turned out good. So
That's
Yeah,
right.
for sure.
All right. Thanks again, Mike, for showing up.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. Thanks, guys. Have a good
You
evening.
bet. You too.
Thank you for listening to Lead and Limb Podcast, brought to you by Lost Nation Archery in Brenton, USA.